welcome to another episode of the Wellbeing Show. And joining me today is Steve Lloyd, who's from the mental health support group Dragon Chat. Steve, thank you for joining me again. Great to see you.
Thank you again, Carl. Cheers for inviting me back.
No worries, no worries. Lots to talk about. Is Phil Parkinson under pressure?
Cool, that's a good one to start off with, isn't it? No, not for me. Not yet, anyway. I think there's always a level of pressure when you're managing a club like Wrexham, and he's been given a lot of money to spend. But I think given what he's done over the past 3 or 4 years, he's got to have a bit of credit in the bank, hasn't he? Surely. You know, results haven't gone our way. That's a certain fact so far. You know, there's worrying things. Have been conceding goals. That's where the big worry is. But yeah, I guess he will be under pressure with a few more defeats. Inevitable, such is football. And that's the life of a football manager, I guess, isn't it, as well?
Well, I think the money he spent and the amount of new signings he's made perhaps increases that pressure. Because certainly the money he spent, but you have to look at it, surely they don't expect it to work straight away now. I was always against signing too many players. I thought see what you could do with a consistent squad. See where that squad from last year, a few additions, but basically the same, where that would get us. But obviously they've gone for it now, and I understand why. The time was now, but he needs time to get these players to gel, find the right starting lineup and the right formation.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, again, it's a brand new team, isn't it? As you said, they've got to gel. They've got to get used to each other. I'm guessing because a lot of the players, some players have been playing for their teams where we signed them from. So they'll be kind of match fit and match ready. But there's others who are probably not quite match fit and match ready as yet. So we're perhaps not seeing the best of them. That will come in, I guess, a couple of months' time as they work, because that's one thing we've got now is a fantastic backroom staff of, you know, looking after the physios and that side of things. Really, you know, top drawer at Wrexham. And I think they'll do some good work with the players to get them fitter. As they get fitter, we gel more, they get used to playing with each other. I think you'll see results kind of improving without any shadow of a doubt. We hope anyway. That's a certain fact. Yeah.
Well, I think I've always felt as the season went on, they'll chip away at the points and we should be okay. But Saturday's performance against QPR, the worst so far. They were outplayed throughout. The second half against Wednesday was very, very poor. But I think overall, QPR, from start to finish, we were second best, far too open, and we couldn't quite contain them. Certainly down that right at times, certainly in that first half.
Yeah, it seems to have been a problem. I think again, from a supporter's point of view and watching games, we seem to be conceding similar sort of goals every week, where it's just a couple of quick passes through midfield, which bypasses our midfield, and they've got runners running onto our back three, and there's, you know, balls coming across the box. They're getting down the channels left and right. It's making it really difficult for us. And you know, you look at, you know, whilst I'm not overly on stats, they can be misleading at times. I think when you look at our, you know, expected goals against, it's really, really high. And, you know, we're conceding big chances and we're conceding goals from those chances. And this division appears so far pretty ruthless.
Yeah, I think we knew it'd be difficult, but this, you can just see the quality again. QPR in the Premier League 10 years ago, which isn't that long really. These are established clubs, certainly in the Championship. Norwich on Saturday, they were in the Premier League a few seasons ago. Very, very recent. They're up and down, up and down. They've got the experience, they've got the infrastructure. These are established Championship clubs. Many of them been in the Premier League recently. We've come a long way so quickly. We don't have that foundation in place, the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be difficult. We're going to have to find our feet quickly and build on that. Again, you know, QPR, established team, they've integrated just a couple of players. Interesting enough, the two lads who kind of were fantastic, him and again, Kone with his goal. We've seen him at Wycombe last season. Yeah. The other lad who really impressed me was Burrell. But again, he was at Burton Albion last season. And when you look at when he come into the side sort of Christmas onwards, when he started playing well for Burton. I mean, Burton looked certain for relegation, and then all of a sudden they managed to finish quite comfortably out of the relegation zone. I'm not saying it was all singly done by him, but you could see the way he played and how dangerous he was on Saturday. It was frightening to see, and he looks an absolute bargain at £1 million, doesn't he?
Yeah. So again, they've got the draw as well. These clubs, and I said they're established names. We're dealing with teams now who have more money than us. They've all got rich owners now, haven't they? They've all got venture capitalists and private equity firms with stakes, and everyone seems to be investing in football clubs. You know, certainly the last couple of decades. You're bringing in foreign ownership. So we're now dealing with clubs who've got a lot of money themselves, not just from their owners, but their success in perhaps the Premier League or in cup runs or in the Championship, being established clubs. So this is what we're up against. And they have as well the scouting systems, and they're able to attract players themselves. The players you mentioned, you think, well, could have we been in for them?
Yeah, and I guess I wonder whether, you know, it would have been a gamble, I think, for Burrell and Kone. They've done really well in that game. Will they be able to produce that sort of form over the 40
Well, I think at Wycombe, Kone was, I mean, he's been a really remarkable story where he's come from, isn't it? His story is really remarkable.
Yeah, he's brilliant, and he may well go on. Burrell may well go on, but again, it remains to be seen. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. You know, a lot of this was established teams that we're playing up against now. You know, and our team, we've come and risen so quickly. You know, some of these players. I mean, how many of the squad at the time were signed to play for us in the National League? They've done fantastically well, got us up into League Two. You know, that was always the aim, to get from League Two, you know, National League to League Two to League One quite quickly. We got up to League One, and it's a perfect storm last year, if you like, and we did fantastically well. I think majority of us probably think we overachieved in a way. If you can say you overachieved, and we got 92 points, well, whatever we got, we deserve to get that many points because that's how many games we won. But I don't think any of us expected to rise that quick. And, you know, no disrespect, because every single one of those players is an absolute legend for what they've done for this football club. There's absolutely no two ways about that. But when you come up into this Championship level, there's a naivety about us, and I don't think that the manager and the owners want to take a chance that these players may be able to kick on. They wanted to sign players who they knew were going to do the job for us and to kind of give us and make us competitive in the division.
Well, there's certainly some great signings they've made. I'm sure you'll be happy with Kiefer Moore and some of the other Welsh lads. Yeah,
unbelievable. And he just seems a perfect fit, doesn't he, for Wrexham. I think, you know, you look at us, the way we set up tactically is very much to overload the wings and get balls into the box. Well, Kiefer Moore must be licking his lips at some of those crosses coming in, and it's probably no surprise in a way that he's scoring as many goals as what he is for us. If we keep getting that service to him, you know, we're going to keep scoring goals, and that to me has been the big shining light of the season so far, that we have created a lot of chances and we've scored a lot of goals. And I was seeing somewhere on a tweet, how accurate it is, I don't know, but we've created more big chances than any team in the division so far in all our games. So that kind of suggests that we're doing something right. We're just not converting the chances we're making.
Well, again, there's a couple on, I can recall Sam Smith when he came on, had a couple of headers, at least one in particular he could have done better with. Was it Ryan Hardy in the first half?
Yeah.
That volley was just past the post, or half volley. Yeah, so that's an interesting stat, because last year we weren't scoring that many, but the defence was, I think, the second best in the league, if not the best. Yeah. And that's what really I was looking at pre-season. If we're going to survive or do well, keep it tight. It's the defence that's going to do the job for us. Whereas we're seeing conceding too many goals. But we are scoring as well. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's the positive side, isn't it? The scoring. You know, if we can then get that shape right, the defensive shape right, we'll be good. It feels a little bit, I don't know, but I think certainly, I think the West Brom game at home and the QPR game on Saturday, it almost felt as though they set traps for us, and then closed us down, nipped the ball off us, and a couple of passes, and they went in on us. So it was almost as if, you know, they were really kind of on it tactically against us. We tried to play this the way we play, which has brought us 3 promotions back to back to back. You know, so you know we can't complain about that. But yeah, it just maybe there's a little bit of naivety there. And perhaps again, players not quite sure of, you know, with the new players coming in, not quite sure of the roles and what's expected of them and where they need to be and where they need to cover.
Yeah, and I think it's the only game so far this season where we've been poor throughout, I think, or for the majority of the match. As I Sheffield Wednesday in the second half was very poor. We were far too open, and in most of the games we've been in them. Southampton, West Brom, we were just lacking something. As you mean, they seem to have just a bit more of these teams, which is understandable. The fitness, the intelligence, technical ability, just a bit sharper, and they were just able to just find out the edge.
Yeah, and I think that again, it's small margins, isn't it, in football? And again, I mean, I think as you said on Saturday, I don't think we played particularly well. We didn't, you know, we've been watching Wrexham for, if anybody who's watched Wrexham for the last 3 years, you almost get that sense that we're going to get a goal and we're going to get back in this game. We build that pressure. I didn't think we were able to kind of fully get on top of the game. It didn't feel as though we were ever really overly on top of it. But yet we still created, as we said there, 3-4 really good chances. And if they would have been taken, you might have been walking off that pitch, you know, 3-3 draw or a 4-3 win. Equally, you could argue that QPR could have and should have had a couple more goals as well. But, you know, that's the nature of football, isn't it?
Is this the start you were expecting, though? Is this something that you were prepared for?
I always felt that we were going to be a little bit like Portsmouth were last season, where they struggled a little bit at the start of the season to find their feet. And then when they found their feet, they moved up the table pretty well, you know, October, November time onwards. I think that's going to be something similar for us when we get our, you know, we get all the players playing together, get the players back from injuries. You know, I mean, I think Windus has been a huge loss for us. He looked superb in those first couple of games. Hopefully he'll be back on Saturday. You know, hopefully there's not too many more injuries flying around, and you know we can get a fully fit squad back and playing. And I think we'll be okay then. But it's just going to take that little bit of time, and I think, you know, as fans, hopefully we can stay patient, you know, with the team and keep on supporting them, keep getting behind them, giving them our support, you know, at this time, because that's what being a fan is, isn't it? You know, it's easy to be a fan when we're winning, but you know, let's get behind them now, because they're giving everything. You can see the players are giving everything. It's just teams are up for it, aren't they, against us as well? That's always harder.
We're still. I think people want to show us the reality. I think we're a big prize, don't we, as well? And we've obviously got a lot of exposure, a lot, you know, attention, and people have got a point to prove. Other teams have a point to prove.
Yeah, and we you know, we're playing at, again, you know, we elite level sport, and I think if you, I'll go back to, you know, when we were in National League and League Two to a point, that, you know, we were flying to away games and coming back, and you know, other team supporters would be, oh, you know, here we go, blah blah blah. But when you think that is, you know, that probably give us those extra 0.5% and 1%, which is the big difference in elite sport to win games. You know, we had the cryo chamber, which come to the ground, you know, and that kind of stuff to help and aid kind of with recovery and all that for the players. We've got a fantastic squad of, you know, a team, medical team behind the club now, you know, with the training and fitness methods. But we're up against it. Well, we're up in a league now, and every single team has got that, and probably with some of them with bells and whistles, because they've been Premier League teams, so they've got even more kind of resources than us. So whereas we were having that perhaps 0.5% and 1% above others previously, other teams might have that over us now. So we've got to find a way of bridging that those little gaps to get the results for us.
Yeah, I think, as I say, too fast, too soon in some ways. Is that one of the problems? As you said, there was no proper foundations put in. But you mentioned fans being patient. I'm seeing a lot of fans being impatient. Only today I've had, well, he's got to go. He can't do it. And people like, it's difficult to call out players, but James McLean is getting a lot of stick. He's too old now. Yeah, League One he can do it, League Two, but now he's not good enough. He's not fit enough. He hasn't got what it takes.
It's an interesting, I mean, and you look at the stats. I think he's Wrexham's top assister this season with 4 assists. So at that end of the pitch, he's doing all right, isn't he? Again, is it all down to James McLean at the back? You know, it probably not. It's a combination of different things and combination of players, you know, playing. He's been up against some speed merchants, hasn't he? You know, he had Lewis Brunt next to him for a couple of games, and Callum Doyle's come in now for a couple of games. It's going to take a little bit of time, isn't it, for them to kind of adjust? And I think QPR perhaps played down that area, you know, on Boyle and on Doyle and McLean on Saturday, and they got quite a bit of joy from it. But again, was somebody else not doing their job in the midfield protecting there? You know, it always looks as though it comes from that one place, but is it somewhere else, and is somebody else not quite doing what they need to do? And you know, as a team, are we making it easy for teams to play against us in a way?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Doyle, who I felt is looking a bit unfit. To me, I thought he looked quite. I managed to see him on Saturday. Certainly, when I could look at him in that first half when he was closer to me, he didn't seem very, very fit. Technically, very good. He's got a great reputation. Only 21, lots of experience in the championship, but seemed a bit off it to me. I don't know if there's something to work out there.
Yeah, I think you read, you know, other teams who've had him on loan, you know, the Coventry fans and Norwich fans, you know, they rate him as one of the best defenders that they've seen at championship level. So he's obviously got the skill there and everything else. Again, he's signed for us late. Has he been, you know, what's his pre-season been like? Has he had much of a pre-season? Has he had an injury in pre-season when he's been at Manchester City? I don't know those answers, if that makes sense. But I certainly think, you know, what I was saying with the team, some look fitter than others. He wasn't match sharp and match fit when he come in for us. So that's something I'm sure that the staff are going to work on with him about. But yeah, I think, you know, that's going to be, you know, we need players fit. And I think if players don't have pre-seasons, you always feel as though they're struggling for the season to find their form and find their fitness. Really, it's hard during a season to get the fitness up because of the nature of game. Certainly in the championship, it's 2 games a week probably from now on, isn't it? Up till Christmas, not far off.
I think Conor Cody, again, he was getting some criticism, not being quick enough, being too slow. And I think he's been one of the best signings so far. He obviously came with a very good reputation. I think we're all excited about his signing. But yeah, criticism I'm seeing. Is it just a knee-jerk reaction, do you think? Or is there any valid points there?
I think so. I'll be honest. I think that, you know, that the third goal on Saturday for QPR was comical. I think when I was playing on a Sunday morning, if my team had conceded that goal, I'd be absolutely livid. You know, their centre-half booted it 70 yards in the air from his own penalty box, and it's gone over everybody's head, and the quick centre forwards run onto it and scored. Not a goal that you see very often in professional football at any level of professional football. And equally, you know, you don't want Conor Cody in foot races against a young fit centre forward who can probably sprint 100 metres in 12 seconds. You know, I mean, that's not Conor Cody's, you know, strength, and I'm sure Conor Cody would say that's not his. He doesn't want to be doing that either. You know, but for whatever reason. And how it's happened, there's been a switch off somewhere, or we've pushed too high up the pitch, or something's gone that you know, we've been just caught out bizarrely caught out, and you could question. I wondered where the goalkeeper's starting position. When you look, I mean, that ball's travelled a long way. Goalkeepers normally at 25 yards out when the ball's up that end of the pitch. That would have been an easy clearance had that have been the case. So I don't know. Had we switched off because it was just a weird goal. I don't think I hope we don't concede another one of them this season, because if we do concede them regularly, we're in trouble.
Well, there was a chance it was very similar, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah, when he's chipped out and hit the bar with it. Or post, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think he did try and come out a bit quicker then. But actually, his starting position for the first one perhaps wasn't what it should have been. But he did hesitate as well, I think.
Yeah, and I think he might have slipped a little bit, unfortunately.
Yes, I think you're right there. You are right, yeah. When you look at the replays, yes.
So I think he was going to come and block, he slipped a little bit, so kind of had to stay and then come. So, he was probably a little bit unlucky there. But again, I don't, interestingly enough, I'm saying about him slipping, I noticed no end of players seem to be slipping on Saturday for some reason. I don't know whether you noticed it, but just all over the pitch, they seem to be kind of just slipping.
Well, they don't have to get the water out now, don't they? A lot of, the recent seasons, that new sprinkler setup they've got, there's a lot of water going on that pitch.
Yeah, and whether it's
the stands as well.
Yeah, it's been quite nice. Early season, it was quite nice to have a bit of a cool down in the stands to refresh yourself. But and whether it's the new kind of pitch with it being part synthetic as well, and it'll have knitted quite kind of tightly. It's a brand new pitch. We've just got to get used to playing on it as well, haven't we? As part of it. I can't blame that, but it's it was interesting that there were a few people slipping over on Saturday.
Okay, I'll take a look out next time. Yeah, we'll take a closer look at that. That could be an interesting point there. Going back to the goalkeepers, Danny Ward. He's had so much stick from the signing. Obviously coming back to Wrexham, but he's getting a lot of stick out there from rival fans, some of our own fans who are not happy, who are not convinced. Why is that?
I don't know. I think sometimes, with the way the internet is and everything, perhaps he's been targeted and highlighted, and he's people are saying, oh, he's this, he's rubbish, he's not all this. I mean, the man's had 50 odd caps for Wales. He's been phenomenal. I think he's been really good for Wrexham, despite we've conceded a lot of goals, but I don't think he's had any chance with a majority of those goals. I think he's done quite well. He's commanded his area. He gets us on the move quickly. His distribution's very, very good. He sets the tempo when we're moving forward. He brings a lot to us. We're really lucky because we've got, I think we've got three terrific keepers. Arthur, I thought his shot stopping, and to be fair, he come for crosses. He was commanding on Saturday. We're coming for corners and crosses. They put balls on him. I thought he dealt with them ever so well on Saturday. And then we've also got Callum Burton there as well. And if you look back to last season, when Arthur had when he broke his wrist, didn't he? I think against Mansfield, and Callum Burton come in. I'm not sure if Burton hadn't got his injury, how quick Arthur would have come back in the side, because Burton was playing really, really well, looking commanding, and done a fantastic job for us. So, we're lucky. I think we've got three decent goalkeepers at the club. That's a positive point for us. And again, Arthur's only going to learn, isn't he, off Danny Ward? I mean, he's played at the top level at Premier League and international football. It's a great mentor to have. And again, Ward, he's young enough. He's 33? Is he 32, 33? He's still got another.
These days, even for a goalkeeper, they've always said they can go in their 40s. But these days, for any player, they go 36, 37 now. Look at Ronaldo, Christ.
Yeah. Well, you look at you'd argue, but you'd argue James McLean's probably one of the fittest players at the club.
Yeah.
And he's 36, 37.
Yeah. But again, going back, someone said to me, why play James McLean now when there's young lads on the bench? And that's another point. The substitutions. People are raging that he's making them too late, especially when you're 2-0 down at half time. Do you then just say, listen, I've got to change something. I can't just wait and see. Half time, make some changes and just try and get back into it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think we see it, as supporters, it's we've got to change it. It's not working, etc., etc. I thought when we come out after half time, that spell for 20 minutes after half time was probably our best spell in the game. We did put them under a bit of pressure. We looked as though we were pushing and probing. We got the goal a bit later than that, I know, but we got back into the game really, really well, and I think we were kind of quite dominant. And again, it was good. We had players on the bench who can come in and make a difference, but again, Nathan Broadhead, how fit is he? Is he fit enough to come in and play that masterclass and unlock defenses? Maybe not at the moment. And again, we're up against good players. Sheaf seems a good player. I'd be surprised if he doesn't start on Saturday. And it was interesting how he switched Longman over to the left, didn't he? And switched it to the right. So whether we're going to see a change at on the right side on Saturday, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah. So he's tried to do something different. He's tried to find something. But again, I think he's doing it too late. But again, it's always a case of people do overreacting at times. Whatever you do is going to be wrong when you lose a match.
Yeah. It's I think it's a funny thing as a manager. You get it right. If it works, it's fantastic. It's perfect. And if it goes wrong, then it doesn't work. And interesting, I was saying about Robbie Savage at Forest Green yesterday, where obviously with the rules of that competition they were playing in, they've got to play 4 players or 5 players, and they played on the Saturday before. He started them and pulled those 3 players off after the first minute, and brought 3 subs on so he could save those players for Saturday. So he played by the rules of it, and they won 3-2. So people are saying, oh well, you can't really have a go at him because it's worked and they've won the game. But it's managers see things different, and Phil Parkinson will see things different, no doubt, than what I do as a lay fan, if that makes sense. I haven't got the insight that he's got. He knows which players are fit. He's got all the data on how long each player can play for and how long they can last for, and if they're able, to, when they're in that danger zone for injuries and that. So he's got all that data. We just kind of sit in the stand and watch it, and we think, well, look at that. He's put 2, 3 or 4 bad passes in there. But what we don't realise is those 3 or 4 bad passes are the passes he's been told to make. It's just that the player's not making that run for him. So yeah, we see things, as fans, we see things differently, don't we, than what managers do.
You mentioned Robbie Savage. I'd have him at Wrexham as a manager, to be fair.
You would, yeah.
If Parky did leave, he'd be one of them. I said today, when someone who works to me, oh, he's got to go. Parky, that's it. He can't do it. He's taken us as far as he can. He's got to go. I mentioned Rafa Benitez, if we could get him, or Robbie Savage.
It's an interesting one. Again, as and when, one thing we can guarantee in football is that at some point, I'll do it in inverted commas, will fail, won't he? Because that's kind of the nature of football. He can't keep winning and winning because once he's gone all the way and won the championship, won the championship, then won the Premier League and European Cup, which is no doubt what we will do in 5 years' time. The season after, when we don't win it, he'll have failed, won't he? You can't keep on. You hope you can, but the realistic will say you can't. So yeah, I don't doubt that somebody will be coming in who's a big name as and when. I'm sure they've probably got people in mind now, and it's a really attractive job, isn't it? At the end of the day,
I don't think someone like Benitez, is that unrealistic. He's obviously had a bit of bad luck. He's out of the game, and he's been in the championship before with Newcastle, and obviously Wrexham, a club to come back in, because if you want to revive your career, it's a good option.
and you know you're going to get money to spend. You know you're going to get the back. You know you're going to get the backing from the ownership and everything else. So yeah, we hope, and I hope that Phil Parkinson doesn't get sacked this season or next season, because it means that we're doing well and we're progressing. But yeah, as and when, I suspect at some point he will either step down or be moved on at some point. It just depends when that is, and when the owners decide that that's the right time to do it.
Yeah, but you mentioned at the beginning that surely he's got enough credit in the bank. I think so. I'd be fuming if he left. He's bought himself enough time if he wants it. Even a relegation, he deserves the opportunity to bring us back or see what he can do in League One.
Absolutely, Cal. Do you know what? You can't give a manager £30 million to spend and then allow him to bring the players that he wants to play in, and then sack him within 6 weeks after. Just because you've got the players and on paper the talent is enormous, but he's got to get to know all these players. He's got to know what makes them tick. He's got to motivate them. They're all at different levels, as we said, of fitness and different levels of everything else. So it's a brand new team. He's got to have time to get them to gel. Because you can bring another manager. I think it was. I'm going to go back to Carlisle last season. I think they got relegated. They got relegated, didn't they, last season? They brought in a manager, allowed him to kind of sign 11 or 12 players in the transfer window, which was his players and his team. I think they played 2 games after the transfer window closed, and then they sacked him, and then brought Mark Hughes in to try and rescue with somebody else's team. And Mark Hughes will have his ideas on how his team wants to play. And that manager brought his players in to be specific for them. And I think, Phil's brought these players in to be knowing what roles he wants them to do and to play specifically. You could bring in the world's best manager in the world now, or best coach in the world. But if those players aren't the right fit for what the style of football he wants to play, you see Manchester United's manager. I mean, Amarin had such a great reputation, but obviously the players he's got, they're not suited to what he wants his teams to be doing. So and we know, having watched Phil Parkinson's side, he requires players to you've got to work for 90 minutes and run everything, and you've got to be fit and you've got to be prepared to put the yards in.
It's just that midfield, isn't it? It seems to get a lot of criticism. It seems to be too weak in midfield. That's where the criticism is coming from. That's what's really upsetting people. We're not controlling the ball. We're getting overrun too easily, dominated too easily.
Yeah, it's again, it sounds all fancy and posh, doesn't it? The old the double pivot we play in midfield. It sounds all tactical and all this, that, and the other. It's just 2 old in midfield players, isn't it? Essentially in front of your back. But I think what that does is it allows us so much time, space, freedom to get overloads on the wings, and that's how we've had our success by getting balls into the box and scoring goals. That's what's done as well. But teams seem to be bypassing that quite easy this season. With a couple of really, I mean, you got good players, accurate passing, quick passing, and they're through, and then they're on your back. They're running at your back line. A bit too quickly, a bit too easy. I don't know how we solve that, whether we drop a little bit deeper. But if we drop a bit deeper, does it lessen our attack a little bit? I don't know. But that to me seems where it's they never seem to be in the right position. But I think that's through what other teams are doing with quick passing through us. I think they've done their homework on us and looked at how we play. And that's where I was saying they've kind of QPR set traps for us on Saturday. They allowed us to the midfield to come up a little bit and then close it down quickly, nip the ball off us, 2 quick passes, and they're through and running on the back 4 from 30 yards, 35 yards out. And they've got 10, 15 yards of space to operate in with runners down both sides and through the middle. So, and then it's very, very hard to stop a chance being created from that situation. So, yeah, I think, I'll give QPR some credit that they kind of, for me, did their homework on us and set traps for us. Because I don't think they played particularly brilliantly. I thought it was a bit too easy for them.
Yeah. And like I said, those players you mentioned, and maybe others who were very, very fast and very aggressive going forward at times.
Yeah, all the way through, and that's pace and power.
Yeah.
The hardest combination to stop in football.
In today's leader, time to change it. So he may be thinking about changing the formation, bringing in some more new players. I think, listen, I'll leave that up to him. I'm not going to try and discuss what he shall play. But in terms of players, I think what the reaction is, play your best team now.
Yeah,
obviously there's fitness levels, there's time to gel, but the response from most fans I'm seeing is get the best players on. You've bought people like Chief and Broadhead, get them in there.
Yeah, and I think I think he's always done that to a point. Parky, isn't he? When he's brought new players in, you'd expected him to be in on the Saturday, but he's always kind of integrated them slowly into the team, just give them a little bit of time to get used to it. And I think it's been working because we've been winning games and we've been doing quite well. So he's been able to integrate them in kind of quite slowly. I think now we're losing games, as we said. I think fans are starting to, the pressure will be cranking up, I'm sure, to an extent, and fans are going to demand, results. So he's going to have to start putting these players in no matter what now. But when you look at it on paper, that's some starting 11 that we're going to get, and we're going to have 3 or 4 players on the bench who are going to be able to influence games as well. So yeah, I've got no worries that we're going to struggle. If I'm honest, I think we'll be okay this season, genuinely.
But I think you think of Parky's teams as well organised, difficult to break down, and that win at Millwall seemed to be getting back to the old ways, where although Millwall dominated the ball, didn't have many shots on target. Yeah. We kept a clean sheet, managed to nick a couple of goals, and it seemed like that's how we think of Parky. Certainly last year, I know we had lots of goals in the National League, maybe the early days of League 2, but he seemed to settle down, be very, very well organised, difficult to beat, not great, not so exciting football, but it was very, very organised.
Well, it was fantastic, really. Millwall, you mentioned that, and the Millwall fans were coming out and saying we were the worst team that's ever played. It almost felt Wrexham were back to our best, wasn't it? when opposition fans are saying that about us. But yeah, I think perhaps away from home at this time, perhaps we'll get better results and we'll see better performances away from home, where we are sat in a little bit more. So we're not going to be as open and as vulnerable perhaps to those attacks that we have been at home, because that's kind of, we've conceded a lot of goals at home and a lot of similar goals at home, as I've said. So I think maybe away from home at Norwich, we'll sit in a little bit deeper. We won't allow teams the space to play those short passes through and get onto our back line, as simple as what they have been doing. And what we have been doing, certainly away from home, is being very effective in breaking and creating chances as well. We had 2 or 3 great chances at Southampton, didn't we? We've created chances at Millwall as well. So, we are creating chances, and good chances, away from home. It's just a case of converting them, because goals win matches, as we know.
Yeah, we need to just, if we can tighten it up a bit and just go on a run of not losing. A couple of draws, I think, settle everyone down, pick up some points, chip away at it. That'll be, I think everyone will settle down a bit.
Yeah, and it's been encouraging, when you look at our results in the Cup, to win 3-2 away at Preston, to beat Hull, on the penalties, we've got Reading coming up now next week in the Cup as well. I think, those results have been quite encouraging as well, because there's been, quite a few fringe players been playing in that, and fringe players from Hull and Preston. So that would suggest that, our fringe players are better than theirs in a way. So once injuries and suspensions kick in for them, their results, it depends when you play teams. If you, again, like everything, isn't it? You can play teams at the wrong time and play teams at the right time. Perhaps we played Sheffield Wednesday at home. I think you'll see they'll have some better results away from home than they will do at home. I think at home, when the onus is on them to come out, they're getting beat 2s and 3-0s. I think had we gone to Sheffield Wednesday, we'd have probably beaten them, having been 2-0 up. So yeah, it's unfortunately it's the way football is, isn't it?
But Reading in the cup, that's another opportunity. You'd expect us to win that. I'd be disappointed if we don't go through. So it's an opportunity here for a decent little cup run, which is always nice.
If you can win this, it's the last 16, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, Grimsby won last night. I noticed as well, which they're doing well. You know, and they're they'll be into the last 16 as well now, won't they? But yeah, it's just let's win, and that's hopefully then we can get a really, really big team. You know, whether it's home or away. But it'd be lovely to go to a really big stadium, wouldn't it? And take a lot of supporters and have a really good kind of day out, and also compete and have a go at these teams as well. See where we are.
I always like a cup run. I don't like it when he doesn't take it seriously. I think it helps in some ways. It's a good, you know, when things are not going well in the league, it's something to fall back on. I know people say, well, the league is more important. That's your bread and butter. But I think everyone likes a cup run. It gives everyone a boost.
Especially with Wrexham. I mean, this is Wrexham. I mean, you know, we were known as giant killers. We've been known as giant killers, haven't we, for years, and pulling off these results. And we've got to make the most of these cup ties, Cal, because it's the interesting fact for you. There you go. We won't play an FA Cup tie in 2025. There you go. Because we were knocked out at Harrogate just before Christmas, weren't we? And we obviously were in the third round of the FA Cup. So I think it's the first year we will never play an FA. We will not play an FA Cup tie in 2025. So there you go. So you've got to make the most of the cup. You have to make the most of these cup games.
We're normally the team people are looking for now. We're not on the receiving end now. We're on these giant killings, and you know.
Well, it's all of a sudden like, you know, if you take it back 10 years, Reading were probably Premier League, not far off 10 years ago, and now they're coming to us as underdogs. Within the division above, and you know, with the players that we've got. So it's unbelievable how things turn around so quickly, don't they, in football? Yeah,
like now we're looking at having Trust Hill, they're in our league. Preston, they're in the Championship. You know, why can't we get a team that, you know, like a couple of years ago would be excited?
Oh, you'd have dragged Hull City at home in a Championship team and have been like, oh, this is amazing. But all of a sudden, it's Hull. I would love to have gone to Wolves, or I'd love to have, you know, Everton. You know, I mean, you know, playing Preston away, a draw in a cup tie against Preston away, you know, 6-7 years ago, you'd have been over the moon, wouldn't you? You know, and I would have been disappointed, but yeah, there you go.
And that's how everything's changed, Steve, isn't it? And obviously, you work, your profession, your job is mental health.
Yeah.
And you set up Dragon Chat in 2020, I believe. Can you just go back and tell us more about that? And I want to know how football fans you work a lot with, you participate, in what you do. How do they control their emotions in terms of, we've seen it now, overreaction, getting sad, getting overexcited? How do they control their emotions, Steve?
It's really really interesting. So I'll go back to how Dragon Chat come about. So obviously it was I was looking to set something up, and I'd had a few meetings with people, you know, to make sure we were going to set it up and do it right. And then COVID come along, so that was going to put a bit of a what do we do, because we wouldn't be able to meet in person. But what had happened at that stage? Obviously, I was doing on the trust board at that stage, and we rang every single season ticket holder who was over 65 as COVID hit, to kind of see if they were okay. And that was, you know, I made 100, 200 calls perhaps myself, but commercial manager at the time, Jeff Scott, Dean Keats manager, Kieran Kennedy, I think one of the centre halves, rung play, and some of the other players were ringing supporters and having conversations with them. And I had some of the most wonderful conversations with, you know, over 65 supporters, kind of reminiscing about the 77, 78 team and what was going on now. And, you know, some chatted and some, you know, were okay and everything else. So, you know, we were just seeing what we could do and if there was anything that we could do to support them at that time. And that sort of like really gave us the spur to set Dragon Chat up, really, because it was like, well, you know, there was no attendance to football games. And we know just how important football is to a lot of people, you know. It's their only avenue to go to meet people. You know, a Saturday afternoon, you'd go out, you'd meet your mates, whether you have a couple of pints, you have a cup of tea, you'd be in the ground, and it didn't matter if you went on your own. You were with your tribe, you were with your friends, you were with your Wrexham family, weren't you? And we were going to lose that connection. Every single person was losing all that kind of connections, and it was a way really of keeping everybody connected as much as we could to the club, because all we were going to do was watch games on the television, and that's all we were doing. And on the back of it, we've had people join, and who some amazing success stories, from people who not able to leave the house for 6 months and 8 months, and now season ticket holders and traveling all across the country, to watch the club. It's had such a positive impact on them. I mean, I'm not saying Dragon Chat's done that, but what it did do is allow them a safe place to come to talk, to meet other people, to make friendships, form friendships, and kind of grow and enjoy their football, enjoy going to games and their football experience. So that's kind of how that come about. And I think it's always been football, certainly men's football, there's always been a huge rivalry, and that if you like, the outpouring of shouting and referees, and if you're not shouting at the referee, then you're shouting at the opposition players, and then it goes on to your own players. It's almost a part of the footballing kind of landscape and culture. I don't personally do, I don't personally shout abuse at kind of players or anything like that. I think it has a detrimental effect, and we see a player playing, what we don't know is if they've been carrying an injury all week, or what's going on for them at home. We see them as footballers and heroes, don't we? We don't see them perhaps as people and individuals who've got families and who've got lives, and they're just earning a living. It's just that they earn their living, playing football, and there's real people, isn't there, behind what we see on the football pitch, and they have real people problems. And I think the documentary's done a really good job of highlighting some of that, with the James Jones side of things, and Anthony Ford, and these real life kind of comes at you, doesn't it? Hard. And yeah, it's I think since COVID's gone through, I think you're seeing a change in landscapes of people. I think there's a lot less kind of tolerance around now. I think there's a lot less kind of, I think it feels as though there's more anxiety and more kind of stress, and I think people are quicker to become kind of angry. And I think social media as well, it's an interesting one, because it's been thrust upon everybody. It's just something that's kind of come and it's there, but no one's ever had any kind of training on how to use it and what to do. And people are writing things down on it whilst they're still kind of pretty emotive, and once you take a step back and think about it, you probably wouldn't ever have thought about writing that and pressing a button to send it. But once you press that button, it's sent. It's there. It's out in it for forever. And a lot of, again, I think a lot of the time, a lot of the people who perhaps send messages, they probably do it out of kind of that spur of the moment anger. I don't think there's huge amount behind it. I mean, the problem is with it on social media, there is an element there who is, deliberately targeting people for whatever, yeah. You're going to get that to a point. But yeah, it's a really interesting kind of, platform, and, to see real time. I guess if you were to watch Wrexham Twitter in real time, it would probably give you a real good insight into, which players are getting targeted and where that is, where those issues lie a little bit, really.
Well, I did that on Saturday. I checked at half time the Facebook post saying you're losing 2-0 down, and you can see the reaction, yeah, from fans and rival fans gloating and mocking, and, and enjoying it, and obviously our own fans disappointed, upset, finding fault. But you said that the idea came before COVID, so you were going to set this up before COVID, and that kind of took a different direction.
Yeah. I think the ideal thing would have been in-person meetings, and kind of we'd have been down in the racecourse and been having meetings, you know, down at the racecourse and that side of things. So yeah, that would have been the ideal thing. But obviously we set it up online, started online, and then obviously we had the takeover 6 months after it was set up, probably. So kind of we'd already set it up, and the next thing the takeover, and then we you know, we've had quite a few overseas people coming along into meetings now. So which is fantastic, you know, that they, you know, prepared to put their trust in, you know, the facilitators and everything to do with Dragon Chat, you know, and kind of come to talk to us. But, you know, it's given me a few head scratching moments of, oh, what do we do here? Because I don't really know services over in, you know, overseas as like I do back over here. But again, you know, we did some research and we put some stuff on the club website, so that kind of all that information for safety stuff is on there for every country, really, and helplines. So yeah, it just gives us a little bit of extra impetus. So I think as well, because a lot of people online come from, you know, away, and also a lot of exiled Wrexham supporters, you know, from all across the country, you know, and, you know, Scotland and down south and Midlands. So we've kind of kept it as an online kind of forum, because it just felt as though it was easier to keep it online, because the people who were coming along were there and from kind of, you know, all over the place, and it allowed them to connect, I think, with Wrexham as well. And I know some of them have said, you know, that the connection that they got from Wrexham from coming to Dragon Chat was, you know, was immense and huge. So yeah, it's been really positive.
So did obviously, I think COVID then, and lockdowns and all that stuff, that made your service even more valuable?
Yeah, I think it did. It was a kind of a, it's probably one of the few. I mean, again, you had the social media platforms where, you know, people would interact and all the rest of it, and, you know, I'm sure, you know, there's lots of WhatsApp groups and whatever set up. But, you know, to kind of see people online and to come to an online Zoom call and, you know, and be able to talk about the football and the games and that was kind of really kind of important. It felt it was kind of quite a nice way of doing it, and a good way of doing it, and it was keeping everybody connected with the club, and keeping people connected with each other as well, which was probably the more important thing, you know, around those times, because there was lots of uncertainty, wasn't there, around those times.
Yeah, but I think that's what's important. It was Wrexham Football Club. The football is what acts as a link, bringing people with similar issues together, given, you know, and there was something else in common, I should say. There was something else in common.
It's the big thing, Cal, and I think that, you know, it's I think this is where you know, the success lies with it, really, because I mean, we've got a format with it, and I may have said before with the format, but, you know, we kind of welcome everybody, see why they come along. We give everybody an opportunity to talk about whatever they need to talk about. You know, there's, you know, some really deep, difficult conversations which people have, and because they need to share and they want to share with the group, they're all supported within that, you know. And then what's important is, if, you know, we've provided a safe place and we've given people a safe place to open up and talk about, you know, what they need to talk about to get that out. It's really important that we do repair work, so that when they leave the meeting, they're not kind of left vulnerable thinking about what they've spoken about, in a way. And that's where the Wrexham chat comes in. That's probably for me the most valuable part of the group, because that's the bit that repairs all. And, you know, after we've allowed people and the people have had that chance and opportunity to say what they need, that repair work, if you like, is the most important part. And that's where the talk of Wrexham, and often, you know, I love it, and when I get, you know, when we get people reminiscing about, you know, games they've been to, and you know, old teams, and, you know, who's your best, you know, what's your best Wrexham 11 that you've seen, you know, what's your best goal, you know, what's your favourite Wrexham FA Cup tie. You know, you could probably talk, you know, what was, you know, you think about it, what was your favourite Wrexham game? You know, what's your favourite YouTube video that you go and watch from Wrexham now? You know, and you know, it just brings a smile to your face, doesn't it, when you remember? Oh, do you remember the Notts County game? What, you know, you could do a Dragon Chat every week and talk about the Notts County game, and everyone will leave with a smile on their face because of the experience of it. And, you know, when you say, it's really interesting when you talk about kind of, you know, mental health in a snapshot. You look at that Notts County game. How many emotions did you go through in that game? How many emotions did everybody go through in that game, from the highs to the lows, to the highs, to the lows, to the highs, to the lows, and then it's like we're not going to, and then you're walking home as if you're on a cloud, you know, and when you think of that as an emotional roller coaster, you know, it's unbelievable. And again, with my job, I do a lot of kind of reflection and reflecting, and I you know, a big advocate about kind of getting to learn about yourself and learning what makes you kind of tick. But often I would be finding, you know, I'd be going to some away games. I remember I drove down to Aldershot when we won 4-3. You know, they equalised in the last minute, didn't they, for 3-3? And you're thinking, oh, here we go. You know, we just drawn to Woking at home, and we're just thinking, oh no, this. You know, Notts County kept on winning, and then Luke Young scored, and then we scored. The elation of that, jumping in the car, driving home. The first hour of the drive, oh mate, it's easiest drive. I'm buzzing. I'm full of it. But then all of a sudden, I think that kind of adrenaline depth, and all of a sudden I started feeling really, really, really tired an hour and a half into the drive home, because it's like I've been kind of so wound up and like a coil all the way through the game. Once we're doing the driving home, starting to calm down a bit, you start to feel really, really tired. So it was kind of just those sort of interesting things, and it'd be interesting to see how everyone else does. Sometimes it's nice to go into town for a coffee or a pint after the game to kind of calm down a little bit and chill out a little bit. But yeah, it's just, you know, everybody's different, I know, but yeah, that kind of, for me, it's quite an interesting one, you know.
And how often do you run the chat? Is it twice a week?
Well, yeah, once weekly for the men and weekly for the women. So we've got a women's group which starts 8 o'clock on a Monday evening. We've got brilliant facilitators in running the women's group as well. Lots of participation, which is fantastic. You know, it runs exactly the same format as the men's group, and I think, you know, it's got really great success in kind of allowing people to feel connected and part of the club, and, you know, supporting each other as well. And the men's group is on a Thursday, which starts at 7. We do till 9 o'clock, because, you know, we were getting kind of bigger numbers, you know, 10, 12 people. So we just needed that little bit of extra time, and we called it extra time because initially, as I said, it was 90 minutes, the same as a football match. First half, 45 minutes was the kind of the how everybody is and that side of it, and the second half was the kind of the Wrexham chat as well. So that's kind of where we kind of went to. But yeah, we have gone in.
Great,
yeah, we have gone into penalty shootouts before now, Cal. You know, with like, you know,
what about replays
before we get off? Oh, mate, some nights, honestly, we could have carried on till 3 o'clock in the morning. I think, you know, we're talking, but that's the, you know, the best part of it, isn't it?
So it's once a week, because that's like standard counselling, which I've had many years ago. You have a session once a week, and I've always felt, is that enough for people? You kind of leave that session, so I've got to wait now a week till I can come back and maybe feel comfortable, if you are comfortable in that session where you can open up and get things out of your system. Do you think once a week, is it enough? Do people leave then and get more and go back to their darkness and retreat again?
I think it you know, I think that's always the difficulty, isn't it? Is how, you know, how often, you know, do you do it? I think the beauty of peer support is that, you know, we're all kind of equals within there. Despite my training and professional background, when I go into that meeting, I'm not a professional. I'm just a member of Dragon Chat, and talk about all the things which I've got going on as well. You know, it's a big part of being the kind of the peer bit, really. So yeah, it's. I mean, again, you could argue, you know, there's more, but again, there are other groups out there, you know, within Wrexham, sort of Andy Man Club again, which runs on a Monday evening. And there's other platforms and other forums which people can go to as well to get the help. Ours is obviously, with being a Wrexham Football Club specific one, a lot of our talk is about kind of the back half of it is all Wrexham Football Club talk, and I think that's enough for some people, because they kind of, you know, they're quite happy with that. But I'm sure if we did one every evening, you know, you'd get. But I think also as well, it would lose its power and its value a little bit. It almost needs to be a gap between, because you don't want it to become too same old conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, people will lose interest then, won't they? And yeah, I think you need
yeah, it becomes a friendship group, which people have made friends, and I know there are friends on there, but essentially it's it's there to serve that group purpose to cover, to make sure everybody is okay with how everything is.
But then again, I suppose it's important to encourage people away from the chat, away from the groups, to focus on things in their lives to make improvements.
Yeah, it's one thing we do, Carl, is that we kind of end a group with what we call a positive affirmation, which is kind of, what are you going to do in the next 7 days to give something to somebody, kind of the 5 ways to well-being, if you like, what can you do in the next 7 days to kind of, do some what self-care are you going to do in the next sort of 7 days? And it's really interesting because I think self-care and compassion to yourself is kind of something that which doesn't come naturally to us as people. I think we set such high standards for ourselves as people every day, and it's not always easy to attain those standards every day. Sometimes you don't quite reach the standards that you think you should reach. But what would you say to your friend if they weren't reaching those sort of standards that they set for themselves? You'd reassure them that you're doing well, you're doing okay, things will get better, don't worry about it. But we don't tend to do it ourselves, do we? We tend to kind of be more destructive to ourselves, So I think a bit of, we need to take time to give us a bit of self-care, and to also be kind to ourselves, don't put too much pressure on us, and don't be too hard on ourselves.
Yeah, because we talked earlier about Ricky Hatton, the shocking news that shocked everyone, I think. And for me, it's because, as I mentioned, he seemed to be dealing with it openly.
Yeah, and he was he was ready to go, wasn't he, to be announced with a fight in Dubai, a sort of an exhibition fight, and he was doing his training. He was kind of he felt as though things were going really, really well, and I think it just goes to show, doesn't it, that you never know. We only see that, we see the person, we ask, but I think this is where it's really important to kind of, check on your mates and check up on people, if you're worried about them, check up on them, send them that message, if you, and just provide that, space for them to talk, isn't it, really? It's listening is such an undervalued skill, if that makes sense. It's often what you don't say, and just being there and listening to someone is as powerful as giving someone advice and saying, you should do this, you should do that. Just sitting and listening and allowing that person to kind of talk, so valuable, and such an important skill as well to do.
Yeah, but going back to Ricky, I think because he was still so busy, so successful, he wasn't, like I said, on the scrap heap of anything. He's still very wealthy, he had his boxing shows he was doing, he was involved with fighters, training for his own fight, he was involved in TV shows. And because for me, the shock was because he talked so openly that you thought, well, he's not going to do anything. Because he's going to get it out. So going back to Gary Speed, I'm not sure, were there any signs with Gary? Was that completely out the blue? Was it anything?
I think that was out of the blue as well, wasn't it? I think that people had spoke to him, and there was no indication and no sign of anything, at all. But often, again, there's certain things that I would look out for, as a professional, with that. But you often don't notice those signs until it's too late, if that makes sense. And that, people putting things into order and kind of, being really, and then feeling content, if that makes sense. And often you'll find if someone's been really, really low, and then they have a period where they pick up and they're better, it's almost that maybe that they've come to the decision what they're going to do. So you think that they've picked up, but yet when you look back after, you're thinking, maybe that's the reason why. But again, they're all, they're kind of small indicators potentially, but you're always kind of, you're kind of aware. Again, I've got that little bit of awareness, obviously, with my, professional hat on, but often you don't often see it until you kind of look back and you reflect on things. It's really sad.
I think with Ricky, again, I keep saying it because you feel he passed that stage. He talked about it, admitted thinking about it. I think he might have made a couple of attempts. That might have been the sign that he's made an attempt in the past. Will he do it again? But yeah, you just kind of felt because he was so open that he was somehow dealing with it and not being so retreated and isolated.
And I think what's really interesting, what you said there, Carl, is it's that something, you know, mental illness and this sort of thing, it doesn't discriminate on anybody, does it? You know, you just said there, you know, Ricky was kind of, he was successful, popular, you know, you'd think he got everything going. Gary Speed, he got so much going for him, so much he's got in life. But again, it doesn't discriminate, you know, when those sort of dark thoughts come along, and it doesn't matter whether you're the, you know, richest, wealthiest person in the world or the, you know, the have got very, very little, you know. When it comes along, and it's not easy, you know. It's one thing that it can affect all of us, and as they say, the figures will say one in three people will experience a mental illness at some point in their life. I would argue probably more than that. It's just those are the ones who kind of perhaps reach out to services. But I think, you know, at some stage, you know, life is difficult. Everybody will, but it's how you kind of cope with it and how you come back from it. And, you know, that's where, going back to Dragon Chat a little bit, you know, it's there as a safety net for people as and when they're starting to struggle with things or they feel as though they're struggling, you know, that's a safety net there for them that they can always come along and they'll always be welcomed, and there'll always be someone there to listen and talk to.
Okay, great stuff. So it's sort of settled now, Dragon's Chat. You've got your format, you've got your routine. Looking to expand, change, or do you have what you think is working?
I think I'd love it to get, you know, to introduce more things within it. But again, it's you know, we've got to work with the football club as regarding that, and I think the club are happy with how it runs and how it works at the moment. Which is perfect for us. And I think, you know, it's really important that you do things that you do well and keep doing them well. And then, you know, it's when you build something in, if you're going to bring something in, you've got to make sure that it's got the longevity. You've got to make sure that you're able to follow through on it, because I don't like bringing things in just for the sake of it. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it, and you've got to think it through and do it correct, because the people who you're going to be doing it for are some of the most vulnerable in our society, if you like. So, you know, we have to get it right, because it has to be focused about them. You know, it's not about me, and kudos for me for setting up this group and everything. That, you know, that I get more pleasure out of seeing people who've attended Dragon Chat attending Wrexham games than anything. That you know, with what it's achieved for some people and what some people have done and put that really hard work in to get to where they are now, you know. We've been a small part in that, but again, we're only a small part. You know, the person themselves does all the hard miles. You know, we can't do that for them. You know, they've got to do that themselves. And
eventually, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, taking, you know, I know responsibility is perhaps maybe the wrong word, but eventually, sometimes you have to. You can't be reliant on other people. You have to be self-reliant, self-reflective, and make the effort yourself eventually.
Yeah, you do, and that's, you know, it's you can give the tools to someone, you can give the tools to people, you can give them the support, but ultimately, you know, it's you that does it. It's you that can do it. You know, and you know, everybody's got that ability to do it. You know, we are strong. You know, we're strong. Everybody is a strong person. You know, you have got that capability to do it, and along the way, there'll be bumps along the way, but don't think that they're failing. Think of it as a learning opportunity, because every time something goes wrong, we learn something, don't we? You know, we learn that, okay, perhaps we've done that not quite right. We'll try something else instead.
Yeah, but I think going back to that, actually joining the group is being self-reliant, is doing something. It's a big move to go and speak to someone, going to your doctor. That is a big step. So that should be championed and, you know, celebrated.
It is the hardest step, Carl. And I know that people who come onto Dragon Chat, not everyone, it won't be the right fit for everybody because of the format and how it works. It won't be the right fit for someone. But just making that first step is huge. Now, if you come and it's not the right step for you, you know, we can provide information and put you into, guide you to where may be more appropriate and maybe better for you. That's something I'm, more than happy to do as regarding that, but yeah, that to make that first step is the biggest and the hardest step you will ever make. Coming to that first meeting, going to your GP, because I think there's still a stigma around mental health that that if you have mental health issues, you're weak. And I think for men particularly as well, we're brought up to be big brave boys, big strong, big soldiers, strong soldiers, and big boys don't cry, and these kind of things. And we know that it kind of can play at that real difficult part for men, if that makes sense, in reaching out, because often they see it as a weakness, and it's not a weakness at all. Actually, it's a huge strength and a huge positive that you've recognized that you need support, and you've gone out and made support. You can't be any more proactive than that. You can't be any more brave than that. You can't be any more kind of anything than that, doing that.
Well, yeah, great stuff, Steve. It's great what you've done with Dragon Chat. I hope it keeps going and gets bigger and stronger. Before you go, Wrexham, we're going to be okay, yeah?
Yeah, we'll finish 15th, 16th, I think, if not a little bit higher. Hopefully, I'll eat my words and when we finish 6th and get in the playoffs and go up to the Premier League.
There's some big teams. You look at your Middlesbroughs and your Coventries and your Stokes. They're looking very impressive, aren't they?
Yeah, frightening the size of some of these teams, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, going back, it's just about enjoying it, trying to control your emotions, try and just enjoy this journey. I know it's easy for people to say, everyone has their own responses. You can't tell a football fan seeing their team struggle week in, week out, maybe in a relegation battle, to enjoy it. But where Wrexham have come from and where it could have been, all you can do is enjoy what is essentially a cup game every week now.
Absolutely, every week's a cup final against a big team. We were dreaming of games like this when we played Sheffield United in the FA Cup. Oh, how good was that? We're playing Sheffield United in effect every week now, aren't we?
Yeah,
it's what we
want.
wanted.
We'll like to finish above them this year. So, mind
crossed.
you, they've made a big move, haven't they?
Well, Mr. Wilder's back. I'm sure you'll see it. You'll see a different Sheffield United now. Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff, Steve Lloyd. Thank you so much, and do come back. Great chat again. And 15 to survive will be fantastic. And he's built a squad to go again. I think this is a squad for the future now. He's done all his shopping now.
Yeah, we'll be fine. I got no doubt about it. We'll be fine. And fingers crossed we'll push up a bit higher than where I've predicted. But yeah, we'll be fine. It's just going to take time. Be patient, stick with them, keep backing them, keep shouting, keep cheering, and we'll be all right.
Exactly. That's the way to do it. Steve Lloyd, thank you so much, mate, and I'll see you again.
Thank you, Carl. Pleasure.